Kenya Moore is claiming that she believes that Porsha Williams is actually very jealous of Shamea Morton, and she's got receipts based off of a previous fight between Shamea and Porsha on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And Julia from The Real Housewives of Miami is breaking her silence with her own statement as to why she's acting the way that she's acting towards Guerdy.
Here we go now.
Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Don't forget the Kempire After Dark, The Villain Era, is coming to Philadelphia on July 10th at the City Winery. Then we'll be in Atlanta on August 5th at their City Winery. Then we're back in DC on August 22nd. And of course, our last show will be in New York City on September 12th. If you've never been to a Kempire After Dark, a live experience, it's a night of hot topics, tea is being spilled, and all kinds of conversation on some of your favorite pop culture news and reality shows. Be sure to get your tickets today. Meet and greets are available for all of the shows, and a live stream option is exclusively available for the New York City show. More information will be available in the description. So before we get to the Kenya Moore of it all and what she spilled in episode 2 of Life Twirls On, let's talk about the Real Housewives of Miami. A lot of you last week didn't even know that the Real Housewives of Miami premiered. A lot of you knew because we did our recap of episode 1, and it was a stellar episode 1. But what we could not understand was the beef between Guerdy and Julia. And by the end of it, watching it play out, we were convinced the problem is Julia. Well, now, almost a week later, Julia's breaking her silence after Guerdy dropped her own receipts in regards to a text exchange between Julia and her at the time. So Julia adopted these two brothers, these little babies. And she made the announcement on the season premiere. And based on what we saw from the season premiere, Guerdy had been on the call, dropped out of the call, tried to get back into the call. But with Zoom, depending on how you have it set up, the person who's hosting the call has to let you in. Based off what Julia said on the episode, she said, my hands were too full. My hands were too full. Loser! Guerdy dropped her own receipts last week, confirming what happened between her and Julia. So in the text exchange here, you can see that Guerdy captions it and says, mind you, she never told me the news by text or phone, so she literally made me fetch, in capitals, the information and after Googling. So you can see here, Guerdy says, hi, are you sending a new link? Never worked when I tried it 3 times. So Guerdy texted Julia and said, hi, are you sending a new link? Never worked when I tried it 3 times. Julia responds and says, hi, sorry, my friend. I don't know what went wrong. We only had one link that everybody stayed on. I'm thinking what happened was Guerdy is thinking, oh, the link is not working because you're not letting me in. Because in certain Zoom calls, you have to be let in if it's private. So she says, sorry you couldn't get in. I had something amazing to tell you guys at the same time. Now it's out and has been publicly announced. Pay attention to that part. Talk to you soon. Hope you're feeling better after your surgery and will recover fast. So literally your friend just had surgery. Why can't you just have grace for her if you know she's recovering from surgery? Guerdy then says, oh, okay, so I guess I'll look online for this announcement. Question mark, exclamation point, question mark, K. For me, I could definitely tell it was passive aggressive because why are you telling me I can go find the information now? You can't just tell me in text. And clearly Julia sensed the shade in the text because Julia says, you will understand when you read. My hands are literally full right now, so I'm dictating this message, but we'll talk to you soon. Hugs. Then a couple of hours later, Guerdy texts her congrats. She says, thank you, hope you're feeling better. Almost a week later since the episode aired, Julia has taken to social media with a very lengthy statement. Very lengthy statement. So Julia says this. She says, my beautiful souls, this season you've seen a different side of me. One even I've struggled to fully explain. The truth is, just before we began filming, something life-changing happened. I was given the chance to welcome 2 incredible boys into my life. It was sudden, emotional, and felt deeply destined. But here's the part no one saw. The adoptions weren't finalized. Not yet. I was living in an emotional in-between, loving these boys fiercely while navigating legal uncertainty. But you still made the announcement. You made the announcement to the public, and then you made the announcement to the women. I'm not understanding what you're saying here and keeping much of it quiet. It was overwhelming, beautiful, yes, but also fragile, sacred, and stressful beyond words, which is why I was so cautious about sharing anything about them in writing. But you shared it to the public. You said it was now public. That doesn't make sense, Julia. You're a terrible liar. Because if she has to go fetch the information that you've now shared publicly that you're saying is in between, is in a legal limbo. How can you share that with the People magazine, but you can't share it with Guerdy? And Guerdy has to go find the information. You are a terrible person and a terrible liar. She then continues, so when moments came up, like sending that strange message you all saw, because now everyone's in her comment section, she's not used to this. She's used to people loving her on the show. She's not used to people like, okay, Julia, this is a reach. She says, I didn't always show up as my most present or thoughtful self. And when it came to Guerdy, the truth is, at the time, we weren't in the close, heart-connected place we had once been. But why? Because I fairly remember, because both Martina and Guerdy were going through cancer, that kind of brought you guys together a little bit. She says our friendship had shifted a bit, not in anger and in conflict, just life pulling us in different directions. So when she reached out, I was so wrapped in my protecting my own emotional chaos, I fumbled. I never meant to come off cold, careless, or bizarre. Oh, the words that you used to describe her congrats text message to you? Clearly projecting. She says, I was simply in a storm of my own. This has been a season of growth, messiness, and deep transformation. Thank you for giving me the space to walk through it imperfectly, but with a full and open heart. With love, always, Julia. No.
This loud bitch gotta bring that shit over here. Okay.
You're going to get dragged every single episode that you drag this crazy storyline out. It makes no sense. It's a reach. It seems a desperate attempt to have something going on this season because you can't talk about other stuff. I don't know. And the fact that Martina is acting that way instead of being a voice of reason, I'm looking at her, but it's Pride Month. I'll let her live for a hot second because she's had some very controversial opinions as well. You Google schmoogle it. Moving on from the whole Julia of it all, because I'm over Julia already this season, but I've been over her. I've never been a fan of Julia on the show. I feel like she's never really brought much of anything. But because you have a cast that is everyone's bringing something, Julia sort of pales in the background. So you're like, all right, fine, she can stay. But a lot of people are saying the reason why that her and Adriana have a falling out this season is because now she's friends with Alexia and Marisol. Fine. Good luck on that, Julia, because you know what will happen? We'll keep Marisol and Alexia and they'll X you out. And we won't miss you. Now, let's talk about Kenya Moore. Kenya Moore has taken to her social media. Again, as you know, a lot of the Bravo celebrities are now coming to YouTube for this YouTube check. And in episode 2 of Life Twirls On with Kenya Moore, she's talking about the relationship between Porsha Williams and Shamea. During the season, Shamea and Porsha have gone through some ups and downs in their relationship. They even had a sit down. Pay attention to what Kenya says, because literally the words that Porsha uses in the recent sit down were words that she had used in the past. And I know a lot of you are saying, but everything between Porsha and Shamea are good. Well, not really. You saw at the reunion, both Porsha and Shamea are sitting across from each other next to Andy. We also see a little bit of a preview for next week's episode. It seems as if Britt comes between Porsha and Shamea's friendship yet again. So let's take a look at what Kenya had to say about the downfall between Shamea and Porsha's friendship.
One of the biggest storylines right now is Porsha and Shamea. They have been friends forever. Obviously, I've known of Shamea since Shamea was first on the show. I remember kicking Shamea off of my boat when I was on the show because she was sticking so closely with Porsha. And
Y'all remember that's the same scene where Carlos had to jump on Porsha because there was a physical altercation between Cynthia and Porsha on the boat. And Carlos had to lay on Porsha to stop Porsha from fighting with Cynthia.
Porsha and I were falling out. But Shamea and I have gone back and forth plenty of times, at least several times that I know of, because of her rocky relationship with Porsha. Now, a lot of you guys may not know, I've actually had a conversation with Shamea a long time ago. And that was when Porsha and I were not on the best terms, and we're cool now. But this was when Porsha and I were not cool. Everything that I know about their friendship, I'll just tell you. I never felt that Porsha was supportive of her being on Housewives. They had asked Shamea to be on Housewives as a housewife years ago. And Shamea refused to do it or could not do it. I'm not really clear about the details, but in any event, she couldn't do it. She didn't do it. She did not accept the offer to be a housewife.
And Shamea has talked about this. I believe it was because of Gerald. Gerald did not want to be on the show, but based off of this season, Gerald has barely been on the show. I don't know a full sentence that Gerald has really said on this show.
Or to interview to be a housewife. And I remember a specific conversation being filmed where Shamea brought up something. Maybe it was her wedding. Maybe it was Porsha not being supportive of her. But I remember Porsha saying something to the effect of, why are you doing this? Why are you over here? Why are you doing this? Do you need the money that bad?
Remember during the recent sit down in season 16, Porsha literally said very similar words to Shamea. Like, why are you doing this, Shamea? Why are you doing this? Remember that?
And I think Shamea was like shocked. Like, where is she going with this? And the gist of the conversation was, can't you just let me have this and you go over and do what you need to do? But this is my platform. You need to go and either be my support system or go away. That was the gist of the conversation. Now, I've been on that show, was on that show, still am, still employed, not on the show currently, but for 12 years. I've seen and heard a lot. I've never lied on anybody. Never. Y'all know that. I just remember thinking, is that a friendship or a relationship of convenience? Because a friendship, you cheer your friends on no matter what. And I just remember this saying that Oprah said before, like, if you have a friend that even shows you a hint of them not wanting you to succeed or climb the rung in a ladder, they are not your friend. I strongly believe that. If I don't have a girlfriend that's on the sidelines of me like, go girl, you better do that. What can I do for you? I'm going to call the producers. I'm going to call the network. I'm going to do everything I can. I need you by my side. I've done that before for a friend of mine, to the point where I'm putting my own job in jeopardy because I'm like, y'all should look at this girl. She is dynamic. She is beautiful. She is a housewife. She is the one you're looking for, and you're overlooking her. And going so far out of my way, people were like, what is going on? What is the situation with you and this friend? Because she was somebody I truly cared about. She's my friend, and I believe she would be good in that role. However, that's not what I see with Shamea and Porsha. What I see is jealousy. What I see is somebody putting their foot on somebody's neck and saying, you stay down there. I want to be the queen of this. You go find your own thing, which is basically what she said. I mean, I think we already know what that is. It's not a friend.
It is not a friend. It's interesting to hear Kenya's perspective and her talking about something that happened years ago. And no one is surprised. We've seen signs and symptoms of Porsha not being a true friend to Shamea over the years. But what we've seen this season as well, we understand that friendship because in a lot of ways, Shamea and Porsha are cut from the same cloth. I'm not surprised that the issue between them might be competition. And the fact that Shamea finally is on the show, and I wouldn't be surprised that Shamea probably has downplayed herself over the years, specifically on being on this show, because Porsha had that conversation with her back then. And maybe at some particular point, production was just like, well, no, Gerald's willing to film. Because I remember Porsha said I think it was on her YouTube channel, where Porsha said that when they started to film, she didn't really hear from Shamea. So Shamea was already starting to act different, according to Porsha. But again, Porsha is not the most reliable reporter.
Hell no.
Okay, she lies. So I don't know if I necessarily 100% believe that. It will be interesting to see what happens between these two women in these next couple of episodes, because they clearly are not friends. There have been things that said in recent interviews, things said on social media about each other. But even despite all of that, I feel like Shamea has still been playing herself down in an effort to be a, quote, good friend to Porsha. When Porsha, I've yet to see in this past week's episode where Porsha does a photo shoot for Shamea. Though that feels like breadcrumbs as opposed to the type of friendship and loyalty that Shamea has given Porsha over the years. But I say all that to say, Shamea, you like it, we love it. You have allowed this type of behavior as a grown woman to continue for years. Because I think a lot of us would have been done with Porsha after Porsha made all of those lame excuses about not coming to your wedding. I think we would have been done then. The real question that we want answered at this Real Housewives of Atlanta season 16 reunion is what happened between Mama Morton and Miss Diane. Because we feel like that is probably the true root of the issues between Porsha Williams and Shamea Morton. Guys, I want to know your thoughts on what Julia from the Real Housewives of Miami had to say when it comes to her beef with Guerdy, and what Kenya Moore had to say about the friendship, or lack thereof, when it comes to Porsha Williams and Shamea Morton. As always, let's continue this conversation in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. And don't forget, we are trying to raise $3,000 for the center in honor of Pride Month here on the channel. 100% of your donation goes to the organization. More information on that will be along the sides here or below the video. Thank you in advance for those that have already donated or will donate. We appreciate your support. As always, thanks for watching.
Here we go now.